Good afternoon, gentlemen. We are here today for the 22nd webinar being organized by IEML, which stands for India Export Mart and Center Limited. IEML, as you know, is the organizer of the India International Hospitality Expo, which has become today the biggest hospitality B2B show in the country. But more about that later. We have a very interesting panel topic today, and we have really the stalwarts of the resort industry come on board to talk about that issue. You know, are staycations and vacations working in the new normal era, as these are the big new words which have come up in the last couple of months, but are they working on the ground? I would recommend that there is some disturbance happening. Could we, could we just please, keep yourselves on mute, and once I prompt anyone, you can unmute yourself and start talking. Well, thank you again for agreeing to be part of this webinar. We hope to come up with a lot of interesting subjects and a lot of interesting findings. We also will be live on Facebook right now, and for future reference, you can always go to our YouTube channel and see the past and present webinar. With that, I invite Mr. Hari Dadu, who's in fact the person behind IHE. It was his brainchild. The show is his brainchild. Unfortunately, the chairman of IEML, Mr. Rakesh Kumar, could not be here. He has some other engagements. But Mr. Dadu, I'm sure, will more than hold his ground, and he always has interesting and unconventional views. So, Dadu ji, आप आइए, आप हमें
जी सूरज जी
श्री गणेश कीजिए.
श्री गणेश करते हैं, राइट. हेलो फ्रेंड्स, ऑन बिहाफ ऑफ IHE एंड IEML, मैं हमारी सभी टीम की ओर से हमारे रेस्पेक्टेड पैनलिस्ट और सभी इंडस्ट्री के साथियों और सभी एसोसिएशंस के साथियों का हमारे आज के 21st वेबिनार में सभी का हार्दिक स्वागत करता हूं और सभी का हार्दिक अभिनंदन करता हूं. आज का दिन बहुत ही शुभ दिन है. प्रभु श्री राम के भव्य मंदिर का निर्माण शुरू होने जा रहा है और हम सभी को भगवान का आशीर्वाद प्राप्त होने का मौका मिला है. हम सभी बहुत सौभाग्यशाली हैं. IHE अपनी संपूर्ण टीम के साथ सारी हॉस्पिटलिटी इंडस्ट्री के लिए अपना शो 2 से 5 दिसंबर 2020 को वर्चुअल शो के रूप में प्रस्तुत करने जा रहा है. मेरा सभी से प्रार्थना है कि आप सभी अपने संपूर्ण समर्थन के साथ इस शो में हिस्सा लें एवं सहयोग करें. सभी माननीय पैनलिस्ट से अनुरोध है कि आप सभी 2 से 5 दिसंबर को वर्चुअल फेयर शो अवश्य ज्वाइन करें, विजिट करें. कोविड-19 ने सारी दुनिया को परेशान किया. हम भारतीय भी इससे अछूते नहीं हैं, लेकिन अपने दृढ़ इरादों से हम इस समस्या से बाहर जल्दी ही आ जाएंगे. हमारा आज का विषय बहुत ही क्रांतिकारी है, जैसा ना कभी सोचा और ना कभी हुआ, लेकिन विपरीत परिस्थितियों में ही जीतने वाला सिकंदर होता है. हमारे आज की सभी सम्मानित पैनलिस्ट ने हेलो डिस्टर्बेंस हो गया सर.
नहीं, ठीक है.
हमारे आज के सभी सम्मानित पैनलिस्ट हमें जानकारी देंगे कि वर्क फ्रॉम होम की परिस्थितियों में हमारे होटल एंड रिसोर्ट्स हम सभी के लिए क्या नया प्लान लेकर आए हैं. हमारे आज के पैनलिस्ट हैं मिस्टर मुगल मनोज, चीफ ऑफिसर महिंद्रा हॉलीडेज एंड रिसोर्ट्स, मिस्टर विक्रम ललवानी, चीफ ऑफ रेवेन्यू मैनेजमेंट, सेल्स एंड डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन, स्टर्लिंग हॉलीडेज एंड रिसोर्ट, मिस्टर विभव प्रसाद, डायरेक्टर लेजर स्टर्लिंग हॉलीडेज एंड रिसोर्ट्स, मिस्टर हिम्मत आनंद, फाउंडर ट्री ऑफ लाइफ होटल्स एंड रिसोर्ट्स, मिस्टर मेहुल शर्मा, फाउंडर एंड CEO सिग्नम हॉलीडेज एंड रिसोर्ट्स, मिस्टर थॉमस एमुनल रामापुरम, जॉइंट डायरेक्टर सेल्स इवॉल्व बैक रिसोर्ट्स, मिस्टर आशुतोष गोयल, डायरेक्टर अनंता होटल्स एंड रिसोर्ट्स, and Mr. अविनाश मगानी, CEO, वेलकम हेरिटेज। आप सभी का सर दोबारा से मैं स्वागत करता हूं और अपने मेंटर मिस्टर सौरभ भट्टाचार्य जी को माइक देता हूं, ये सब प्रोग्राम को आगे बढ़ाएंगे। थैंक यू।
Thank you, Dadu sir. I just wanted to raise a question from Mini Schmidt of the Center for Historic Houses of India. Well, maybe Mr. Dadu chooses to deliver his talks in Hindi, but the rest of the discussion will be in English. So I don't think you'll have a problem. Meanwhile, could I ask my colleague Radhika to play the IHE 2020, the India International Hospitality Expo 2020 video, please?
Yes.
Well, thank you, Radhika. That gave you a little hint of what the IHE 2020, which is scheduled for December 2nd to December 5th, will be like. It will be an all virtual show, but there will also be interesting side events which will be like again available on our website. And these events will include a conference, a 3-day conference, and awards evening. It will also have master classes and both the food and cocktail master classes. And I'm sure there will be many more things. I'm sure we will have showcases, experiences, a lot of excitement that can be built into an online platform. Anyway, that is what is going to come in the future. Let's now shift our gaze to the present. And Mr. Mamgani, Avinash, must congratulate you on your recent elevation as CEO of Welcome Heritage. Could you unmute yourself, please?
Yes.
And it's so nice to see you. I used to see you years ago at the Maurya in Delhi. So nice to see that you're back at the headquarters. But I believe now you're in lockdown in Rajasthan, in Jaipur. What is the situation there?
No. I had planned a visit in Rajasthan, and while Rajasthan is open as a state, it is a state that allows tourism without any passes. There are certain areas and districts that are in lockdown. So I thought it was interesting to mention that in this meeting, because even though we allow vacations or any such thing, it's important for people to check before they travel, because you may have a position where there is seemingly no problem, but the destination you are going to can actually be in the lockdown. So in this particular case, we have a hotel in Kota. We have a palace in Kota where I was going, and the route is via a city called Bundi, and Bundi is in lockdown. So I couldn't do my trip. I was going to do my trip otherwise, and I'll probably do it next week.
Right.
But I think it's a good happenstance that I'm therefore available for this discussion.
Right. No, we would have caught you even if you were in Kota. We would have reached you
In the car.
Yeah, in the car.
Yes, yes. Nowadays, it
So
doesn't
good,
matter where you are.
You're always on a Zoom call.
Yes.
So,
Too many.
that yeah, that brings me to an interesting point because Vibhas, a lot of your resorts are based in the hills, in Uttarakhand. Now, for instance, it is very difficult to go from Delhi to Uttarakhand, and from UP, it is impossible to access Uttarakhand from UP. So for someone, Delhi has to take a very long and circuitous route, to reach Uttarakhand. Now, some issues like this, aren't they affecting your business? Or do you think, I mean, when we talk about staycations and work from home in like beautiful settings, like say Nainital or something like that, isn't it right a pipe dream?
So thank you, Mr. Bhattacharya, for asking this question. Thank you for having us on this panel itself. So I just share our experience. So we actually had the opportunity to open our hotels around about the time when the central government allowed hotels to open, which was about the 8th of June. Uttarakhand actually allowed for hotels to open immediately thereafter. However, under the Unlockdown 1.0, they had some restrictions. So we could not ferry our guests across the state border in the first case if you were in COVID dense cities. So they had a list of 71 odd cities. The list came down to about 30 odd cities. So almost a month went by under Unlockdown 1.0, where we do not have access to NCR. Thereafter, under the Unlockdown 2.0, they have now allowed guests to come in with either a COVID negative test. So we need a RT-PCR test, or you need a minimum length of stay of 7 nights. So this has actually caused a lot of problems for our guests to come in. To add to that misery, you also have had weekend curfews or lockdowns in both UP and Uttarakhand as well. There was a spike in cases. So a person who's looking to get away from his home, looking for greener pastures up in the hills or close to forests, if he has that stress that can I get locked down, as Mr. Mangnani mentioned right now, we have hence seen a very limited response or a timid response so far. But we are hoping that Unlockdown 4.0 is better for us in Uttarakhand at least.
Yeah, the problem with something like COVID, and I bring in Mr. Himat Anand here, something like COVID, it's unpredictable which direction it takes, where there is a spike in cases, and where suddenly there's a lockdown. In such a situation, how does the hospitality industry manage? How does it manage the uncertainties of COVID?
Right. So I think there are two ways to look at it. Is the hospitality industry interested only to sell its room and not really take care or hold itself responsible for state border restrictions, because that's a government decision? Or do we say that if a guest is traveling to us, we believe it is our responsibility to guide him and mentor him whether he should travel to us or not? So this is the reason why we've opened, out of the 8 properties which we have, we've only opened 2 in Rajasthan as yet. We have 3 properties in Uttarakhand, and like Vibhas just explained to you, I think it's absolutely treacherous to get to that state, and it's very uncertain. So we've kept those properties locked, and we will continue to keep them shut down till the time we know there is absolute clarity from the state government on whether they want people in or they don't want people in. So we're happy to keep them shut down. It's a pity. I think Himachal has done the right thing. At least they've given you clarity that till 15th August or whatever, we are not opening, finished. They made that rule, end of story. Uttarakhand, on the other hand, keeps changing it every other day. What the state says, the guys at the border don't know. So I've had people, if you're lucky, you will sail through and go. If you're unlucky, you will get caught and then go through the whole rigmarole of bureaucracy. So yeah, I think each company has to sort of take a call for themselves that am I concerned only in selling rooms, or am I concerned about the whole holiday experience of the guest?
Right.
And we've taken the latter. So we're going to go step by step. I think we're in no rush to open properties for the sake of opening them. And let's see what September brings for us.
Right. That's right. I think, it's a very sensible decision that you've taken. I mean, I can imagine the kind of problems guests who get caught up in the bureaucratic rigmarole they must be facing, So that brings me to Miguel Munoz. You have Mahindra, of course, has destinations all over, and you got destinations by the sea, elsewhere. Now, how do you manage? How many states do you come under, or how many state governments you have to manage?
Well, we have to. Good evening, everybody, and a warm welcome to everybody, to all our listeners and viewers. In effect, in India, we have a total of approximately 40 resorts. We've actually opened to date 17 resorts across the country, quite spread out. And as Mr. Anand was saying, except for Himachal Pradesh, which we haven't opened yet because of the lockdown restrictions there. Everywhere else, we've opened up, even if it's one resort. Obviously, we are also a member-based company, as you know, as Club Mahindra. We have a large member base. And we felt that there's an obligation from the company to open up a resort, even if it is to welcome some of the local members in the region and in the state that are able to travel. And we are hand-holding that process for them. Obviously, we've taken all the precautionary measures, all the COVID protocols. We've partnered with Bureau Veritas, who's a global leader in sanitization and certification. So we've done that. We've gone the extra mile in doing all the contactless services, ensuring that all our safety and hygiene protocols are very robust and in place. And what we are sending is a message to our members and also to all the travelers that it is safe to travel if the advisories permit you to travel. And I think that's a positive message that we as hoteliers and in the hospitality industry have to send to the marketplace in general. We have to have our systems in place. We have to have our SOPs in place to ensure that it is a safe environment. It is a hygienic environment. And the response has been overwhelming, I must say, where we are able, where we have opened the resorts, the reviews from the members and the guests that have stayed at a resort have been absolutely fantastic and phenomenal and very positive. And that's inspired as well others to take the initiative because, as you know, there is a lot of uncertainty and a lot of apprehension by people to travel, to get their families in their vehicles and take, the courage to drive to the destination. But wherever it's permitted, it's very much at a local level at the moment. I think, like I said, the response has been very, very positive, and we are growing on that. We are on this mode to send a message of reassurance that that these resorts are safe for your holiday, and you can actually have a very good time. And whilst the pickup may not be fantastic as what we were used to, but I think it is a sign of hope and optimism that it will grow. We're coming into a month, as you all know, of quite a few festivities in the month of August. And we are hoping, as we're seeing, particularly in Rajasthan, we're seeing very stable occupancy levels. Coorg is back up now. Kerala, we're seeing a little bit timid sort of, occupancy levels, but yet growing. And obviously Uttarakhand that was mentioned over here as well. So a lot to deal with, but hand-holding the process for the members and the guests to ensure that it is hassle-free to travel for them. And then once they get to the resort, a very safe and very hygiene environment to ensure that they walk away with a fantastic experience.
Well, that was a very succinct, very well put national overview that you gave, Miguel. Mr. Vikram Lalwani of Sterling. You have also a national chain almost, and again, you're dealing with so many different states and the different regulations. How have you been navigating these different requirements?
Okay, good evening to all of you. I think what we have, the approach that we have actually undertaken is more towards opening resorts that are in drive-to distance from the main cities. In fact, 90% of our resorts, we have over 40 resorts in the country across right from Srinagar to Uti Kodai in the south. We have been opening resorts in a phased manner, depending on its distance from the main source market. We believe that there is a lot of pent-up demand. People will take their cars out and drive 2-3 hours for a quick break. And that's the trend that we've been seeing since June when we've started reopening our hotels. July has been better than June, and August is looking better than July. So, and Sterling also has both members as well as guests, because we have a mixed use model. We had done a complete engagement program with all our members way back in the month of April or May. And 70% of them actually had told us that as soon as things start opening up, we want to drive to the next location for a holiday. So I think there is a lot of positivism in the marketplace. People are willing to travel. The hotel guests are coming out. We opened Mount Abu last month. It's doing phenomenally well out of Ahmedabad. We opened a new destination called Rajakot in Kerala. A lot of people are traveling out of Cochin and Ernakulam and driving down to Rajakot. Obviously, it is our responsibility to ensure we actually have a 360-degree clinically hygiene program that we run. We've also got that certified by Apollo Clinics, the entire process and its execution. We have a holiday insurance that we provide to our guests that gives them a lot more confidence to travel out of their homes. And it's a doorstep-to-doorstep insurance. So as we are also trying to instill the confidence in our guests and in the marketplace, as much as there is a pent-up demand, coming in from the market. So we are selectively opening these resorts that is drivable 2-3 hours from the main city. And I think that's the way in which we are scaling up our operations as we go along.
So what you're saying is that the market for these 3-hour drives, there's a big market there. So there, I guess one doesn't have to cross state borders with different rules and regulations. So there's an opportunity there. But, we have seen the case of Uttarakhand, which is really hemmed in, it's sort of, it's lost in the middle of nowhere, with so many different rules at work against it, Mehul, what has been your experience? You have a mix of, you do mostly heritage properties, and they are in mostly, a lot of them in Rajasthan, where I gather that the situation varies from state to state, from district to district. How do you deal with these sort of uncertainties? Unmute yourself.
Okay, so we've got about 14 odd hotels, but that's a combination essentially of business hotels to resorts to a few heritage havelis, palaces, and apartments and business hotels. So what we've realized is that any destination which has a decent inventory, decent in terms from the customer's perspective, has an inventory of about 10, 15, 20 rooms, is a self-sustainable model, because you tend to achieve your numbers. I mean, it's ultimately, whenever you run a business, it's all about numbers. You need to see profitability. You need to see your payroll costs. You need to see your sales and marketing expenses, your HLP and all that stuff. What we realize is smaller properties, easy to sell purely on leisure, because that's one segment which amongst all these segments will perform and is continuing to perform. However, the hotel has a combination of different segments which leads to a certain percentage of threshold occupancy. We're finding it difficult for them to get filled up. For example, if you've got a hotel in city center in Jaipur, we just do about 8-10 rooms a day, and that's considering an inventory of 75. We do not have essentially people coming in, so it's better that we remain shut. A Haveli in Jodhpur has about 14 rooms, extremely easy to manage, extremely easy to fill because it's a leisure segment. Uttarakhand remains shut. Shimla remains shut. Kasauli remains shut because probably one of the reasons is we realize that the state-run clampdowns, which essentially comes down within 24 hours notice, but also it's important that once you open up a property, it is essential to have a certain threshold occupancies month on month for you to survive, for you to people get their salaries on time, and there is no external debt which you need to take to ensure that there is a complete profitability. We would rather have people take a month's break, ensure that there's some amount of salary which is coming to them, but open when absolutely sure in terms of the feeder markets pumping in the numbers. We get certain assurances from our B2B, B2C, OTA partners, and of course, any other segment which we feel will perform. Once we arrive at certain numbers, then along with whatever are the local policies, it makes sense for us to open up. So mostly we probably will see opening up of hotels, I think in October, November itself. Numbers have to coincide.
Ideal, yeah.
Numbers has to add up. Ultimately, we are in a business to make money. We are in a business to make it profitable. Numbers have to add up. And also one of the most important responsibility of us is to ensure that all the people who are there in terms of the employees, they get the salaries on time. So once you get somebody on board, you can't just have spurts of business coming in and moving out and work on your business plan like that. We don't work on erratic plans. We would rather have a stable form of income coming in and then work on that front. So that's the strategy what we imply for us.
Right. Thomas, you are from, your resorts mostly based in the south, and Evolve back, formerly Orange County, has been running some stellar resorts and it has been winning a lot of awards. Now, and we just heard Mehul talk about ideal numbers, that you should ramp up a certain number, ramp up to a level which allows you to run a hotel with decent enough profitability and which takes care of the employees too. What is your situation in your resorts? Are you facing some unique problems, or do you have an easier time than a lot of the people who are based more in the north have had?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Bhattacharya. Yes, it's for us, it's been a little bit of a unique thing. Unlike some of the other panelists, we don't have that many properties. We have 3 properties, all of them which are a 5.5-hour drive away from Bangalore. So Bangalore is a good feeder market. So when Unlock 1.0 was announced and, when we were able to open up our properties, we opened it up in a phased manner. But the small issue that happened with us in Karnataka was we went into another lockdown. So that really took a toll on us, because having to bring all these people from neighboring states and finish their quarantine, and when they were just ready to get into work, district-wise, certain districts went into quarantine, and on July 14, the final nail in the coffin, Bangalore went into quarantine, and on July 22nd, we opened up again, but then that takes a huge toll. I mean, if you didn't open at all, that was fine. But when you open it and you have to close it down within 25 days, it's a huge stress. And we have now opened up I'm sure we've heard of pent-up demand a lot of the times, but that pent-up demand, I think we are very primed to take that pent-up demand, because Bangalore is right. It's a driving distance. You don't need to get into a flight. We're not seeing those kind of numbers, to be honest, as in we are seeing we're seeing a very secular rise in numbers. It's not like people are rushing. Yes, last weekend in one of our properties was full, and that is what we're. And coming to workations, staycations, yeah, there are many things that are being floated by various hotels and workation and work from home. While that is there and it's an interesting concept, the bread and butter for us at least has been the 3 and 2 and 3 night weekends that people are taking from Bangalore. Not many people are still getting used to go stay 8 nights in a resort and work from there. Maybe we get 15% of our business through workations, but it's mostly through the traditional holidays people were taking pre-pandemic. I mean, they want to get out, they want to go to a good place, and they want to, just because they've been stuck in their home for so many days. And at least the chief minister currently has said, lockdown is not the answer, and he's promised that there's not going to be another lockdown, at least in Karnataka. So, so we are hopeful that things are going to go up from here. And with regard to numbers, I mean, our company's philosophy has been, as long as the government makes it legal for us to open a property, we're going to open it and see how we're going to be able to run it. We're not even having anything of, how much we can get and everything, because everything is so new for us now coming back. So we're just, doing what we can, marketing ourselves the best way, and hoping for a good future forward.
Right. So, Ashutosh, like from what I've gathered, your properties are mostly based again in Rajasthan.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So Rajasthan is of course everyone's favorite to set up, the niche leisure properties. But Rajasthan has the disadvantage of, its districts keep getting declared COVID-free and then again brought back to lockdown situation. So right now, how many of your resorts are open and working, and how many are shut?
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for that question. So I have my properties in Jaipur, Udaipur, Pushkar, and Ranthambore. And fortunately, from Jaipur, there aren't any districts that have been under lockdown as of now. So it's an easy way from Jaipur to all these places. And all my properties are very close to nature. So that really encourages a lot of people, who are stuck at home for almost 2-3 months, to like get out and be close to nature. And when it comes to staycations, I fortunately
do you see sorry to butting in, but do you see a movement happening from Jaipur to these places? So like when we talk about staycations and all, we only talk about the big city markets, but
right.
Sort of tier 2 market like Jaipur is it also experiencing the staycation phenomenon?
Yeah, of course. I mean, like I was saying, people stuck at home are looking, they are mentally drained and they are looking for a getaway. And we have had people who have stayed at the property for almost like 1 or 2 weeks. And there have been people who have come to, stay for a day or two, but ended up staying for a week. I think the nature makes a lot of difference. And that is where we have also revised our storytelling. We are trying to sell nature because, for how long can you stay in concrete wall, surrounded by concrete walls? You want to get out, and I feel that the vacation package is something very unique. I've had a lot of guests saying that they have shifted their workstations. They have worked in my Pushkar property, and they have said that it has led to increase in productivity and working efficiency. So I think nature plays a very strong role in that aspect.
Yeah. That's interesting. That's something very positive in favor of the whole idea of vacations. That sort of gets me down to a little more difficult question. I don't know. So Miguel, let's begin with you. Sort of what has been the first round of occupancy levels have you seen? What percentage have you seen in this round of lockdown?
You're asking me, yeah? Satish?
Yeah.
Sorry.
What has been the occupancy percentage that you have seen in the last week or 2 weeks?
Yeah. So again, very state dependent. So Rajasthan, phenomenal. We're over 70% in the property properties that we've opened. So four properties in Rajasthan. And Maharashtra, we've got one resort open. As you know, there's a 33% sort of restriction there. And then Kerala, it's been up and down because of the lockdown situation and the cases increasing. So a bit less there. Goa is the one that really at the moment hasn't taken off, but we're seeing some good projections for August and certainly September. And our projections are certainly very good for, like we said, for August and September. And it all depends now on the advisories and the guidelines that will be sent by each state. So from us, we're very hopeful. We feel that by opening up the resorts and, like I said, sending a positive message to the marketplace and particularly to our members, it's encouraging people to come to the resorts in a very safe and hygienic environment. And we feel that's going to pay off now for the future, particularly for August and September, as we move into hopefully the holiday period.
Yeah. You know what, Vikram, sort of brings me, like Miguel talked about Goa. It has intrigued me that why has Goa not generated that kind of excitement, or is it because the weather in Goa at this time is not good? What has been the experience of studying resorts in Goa?
So you're asking me, just to repeat, you're asking me specifically for Goa?
Well, Miguel
asking you why Goa is not
Goa right now. Yeah.
Okay, I think if you have to speak of Goa specifically, I think there are 2-3 reasons. One, any which ways, Goa, this is the monsoon season at this point in time.
Yeah.
Monsoon season, Goa has been, good for mice and wedding, and some if it's a wedding period, but it's mainly for mice movement that Goa has moved during this point in time in a normal year, and mice or meetings and incentives are not taking place the way it's supposed to be taking place. So a lot of people are actually focusing on FITs. Secondly is it's not very easy to drive from Bombay to Goa. So I think these are the 2 factors that's impacting Goa tremendously. A lot of people are not willing to still take flights, so I think that's why Goa is lagging. Whereas, as I said, the destinations that are closer to source markets, 2 or 3 hours drive, they are doing far better. Yes, when we opened it initially, it would be it was 15 to 25% occupancies. But as we keep, the months keep prolonging, and the projections are also showing that they are the ones actually growing at a faster rate. Even Mussoorie is actually also growing at a faster rate than what it was last month. Rajasthan is doing extremely well. Kerala for Kerala business is doing well. If you have enough Kerala for Kerala business, yes, the interstate restrictions have been for Kerala. Take for example in Bangalore. If I had to travel to Kerala, I had to get an e-pass. And in the e-pass website, there is no provision for a tourist. Secondly, if I have to come back to Bangalore, I have to get quarantined for 14 days. I'm not going to do that.
Oh, good.
So the focus then was to shift from Kerala to Kerala, for business from Kerala to Kerala, which is what was the entire intention. And that's why, some of these destinations do well, some don't do that well.
In fact, this whole exercise, actually, while researching for this webinar, I realized that the actual catch is in the states. We always talk about lockdown or unlockdown in a national perspective, but it's so different from state to state and from district to district, that it is quite a planner's nightmare, really. And I think that is taking its effect, Avinash, which brings me to a question like for Welcome Heritage. Most of your tours are organized much in advance. They're sort of, of course, there are a lot of summer holiday makers, for instance, who at this time would go to your palaces in the hills, But there are also people coming from all over the world and who plan, as we know, international tourists plan much in advance. So how has it been shaping up? What are the numbers showing to you, and what do you think will be the month where it will again be back to normal or near normal?
So, you touched on two major segments of business, inbound and domestic. Inbound anyway is written off this year completely. So all the hotels that were dependent on inbound business or had a inbound component are definitely looking at a new strategy as to what they will do this year. I suspect that inbound will move slowly, probably from next year, but in reality will be in full force only by next October season. So you're really looking at the market, working in the domestic market or relying on the domestic market for the next 1.5 years. So really speaking, almost every hotel or resort or destination has to reorient all its strategies to develop the domestic market, and that's not easy for a industry that has focused a lot on the inbound side. So in our segment, there are I would say 60% who rely on domestic, 40% who rely on inbound, and some who are doing a mix of both. So wherever domestic was the case, there isn't such a big issue, because domestic, as you just heard from the other panelists, is slowly beginning to revive, and we are fairly confident that it'll keep rising over the next few months. But the properties
Yeah. So please.
Tell me, I'll then continue once.
Please continue. You were saying the properties which are sort of more
relying on the inbound business. I think now in fact, we're getting a lot of queries from them for tie-up with us. So that's a trend that is happening in the marketplace, where all the properties that were, let's say, 70% or 80% inbound oriented are looking for a partner who can support them in this intervening period from this year to next year. And I think by the time the inbound business does come in, they will be a far more mature segment, because they will manage both the segments a little more smartly than before. So the fact is that,
do you see like a lot of people are now placing their bets on the market that is not going abroad? We have about 27 million Indians who would have taken a holiday abroad, but sort of stuck in India now. Do you see that market somehow coming to you and swelling your domestic numbers?
Almost definitely there will be people, these 27 million tourists who went abroad, who cannot travel again for at least, I think, 6 months. There'll be very little outbound travel.
Right.
Will look for properties, and they are looking for properties that I would say mirror somewhat an international kind of quality in terms of pricing or experience. So experiential destinations are getting a fair amount of demand. And I think my panelists who are in the same area would probably find that a lot of well-heeled Indians will start moving towards these properties. I think my colleague, Mr. Anand, already mentioned some time back in one of his posts that his fine resort in Jaipur is doing extremely well, because people want a quality experience and they're willing to pay for it. At least Indians, the 27 million Indians who do travel, are willing to pay for that. So it really brings the Indian hotel industry into a maturer phase than before, because the international traveler really they were in two segments. Either they were paying very high rates, or they were paying very moderate rates or very normal average
Southeast Asian rates.
All of them.
Yeah. So now, Ms. Anand, you have been watching the industry for a long time. You've been writing about the industry and speaking on behalf of the industry. But now we are in a very unique situation. I think none of us was ever prepared for this pandemic. And you're also in a business which is most likely to be affected by any pandemic, because so like, do you think there are some long-term lessons to be learned from this situation? Especially for the resort industry.
So,
So if he,
I think,
sorry, you were asking.
is that for me or for somebody else? Sorry.
Sorry, I'm not
Yes,
sure who you were
Hemant, for
asking.
you.
Okay.
Mr.
So I think, yeah, one of the lessons.
Okay, sorry, no, that's all right.
Should I carry on?
Yes, sir, please carry on. I think there is some network with Mr. Bhattacharya.
Okay.
Yeah, please take it.
Right, thanks. You know, when I think what I basically think the industry at these times has been its own worst enemy in the last 3 months. There's been, unfortunately, too much of moaning and groaning gone about a situation which is staring us in the face. And we have actually scared potential guests away with a lot of unnecessary hype. And I use the word hype intentionally. Around safety, around security, and all of that stuff. I think all of us are very conscious of what we need to do in all our respective properties. But I don't think hospitality is only about health and safety. Because when a guest comes to you, he wants to leave his problems outside the four walls of your hotel. So you are in the hospitality business and not really in the hospital business, as I keep saying. So I think we've sort of stretched it a bit too much of this health and safety. Add to that is the 24/7 coverage by the TV channels who have just numbers of deaths and infections to tell you. So yeah, we've created an environment where quite obviously the traveler is hesitant. And when lockdown was finished 3 months back, I was very positive that the domestic traveler is going to move very quickly. I was very, very sure. Unfortunately, like some other panelists have said, that uptake has not happened and people are still extremely cautious. So I don't know if there are any long-term lessons to be learned from this, because let's look at 9/11, after 9/11, which happened. As far as hospitality is concerned, it really left us with two takeaways as far as hospitality is concerned. One was the security check at the gate. Your car is checked over there, and some people have the doggy which goes around, trying to sniff whatever it can. And then you go into the main porch area where you walk in through the metal detectors. And inside you have more CCTV cameras in public areas. That is what really 9/11 left us as far as the industry is concerned.
Right.
It is my belief similarly that COVID, when it will go, and it has to go, I am not the believer at all that it, and when I said has to go, I mean we will learn to live with it. It will also leave us 1 or 2 or 3 takeaways, and I think rest everything will come back to normal. So I am not for one who subscribes to a lot of contactless stuff which people are talking about. Suddenly menus are becoming contactless. People want to do away with receptions. Some people are talking of changing design hotels for the future because of COVID. I really believe these are very extreme reactions being taken to a situation, which in my opinion, I think in the next 6 months will more or less stabilize. And I would like us to come back to being in the hospitality industry with that smile, which is what we're all about. So too early to say what are the lessons which are going to be, because we still don't know what COVID is, let alone the lessons which we have to learn from it. So let's get the vaccine out first. Let's learn from all of that. And I think with time, my gut feel tells me you will change only probably 20% of what we used to do pre-COVID. Rest, everything is going to come back to its normal, what was before COVID. Now, when it comes back is a question I don't think anybody can answer. There are guesstimates between 6 months and 2 years. Let's see when that happens. But I'm an absolute optimist. We are sticking with all what we do in the hospitality like we used to do. So I'm not in a rush to change too many things too soon.
That's right. I think, as they say, that people are yearning to get back to the old normal and not to the new normal.
Yes, and I don't understand this new normal. I mean, what is new normal? I mean, what is the present is always the normal. What is new normal? There is nothing as new normal. Like we talk about social distancing. I mean, in hospitality, how can there be social distancing? We are social animals in hospitality. There is physical distancing. It's 3 feet away from each other. I think hospitality must use the word physical distancing and not really social distancing.
Absolutely. That's, and also, so Mehul, I see you smiling very broadly, and also I think Mr. Anand raised a very important distinction that we are not in the hospitals business, we're in the hospitality business. And so what are your thoughts on the subject? Mehul, to unmute yourself, please.
This to me, yes. Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
Mehul. Yeah.
Huh?
Mehul Sharma.
Mehul.
Ah, Mehul.
Okay,
Sorry.
yeah. So we've got similar
Not
names.
Mikhail.
So
not
I'm quite a follower of Mr. Himmat Anand, and I really appreciate call the spade a spade. What he says absolute makes sense. To add in terms of hospitality, hospitals and all that, so I think one thing what I feel is a key takeaway from this entire pandemic is our dependency on inbound has to come down. Dependency on domestic, our dependency on our own country has to improve and increase if we have to really work on the numbers and get our numbers in place. We currently talk about 10% of the GDP contribution coming in from tourism to the GDP. In terms of pure relative numbers, if the segment is contributing about 14 lakh crore in last year, and we presume it will come to about 28 lakh crore in about 10 years down the line, I think what Mr. Amitabh Kant did by launching something called the Incredible India back in 2002, if something is a takeaway from this thing, should be a very concrete program to ensure that we completely push the domestic front. So when you say domestic front, all the segments essentially for any hotel to perform, be it a MICE or a domestic or B2B or the OTA segments or your leisure segments, everybody will fall into place. With a population of 135 crores, with the current program which we're talking about is Dekho Apna Desh and all that stuff, if we take that seriously, we don't have to depend on certain spurts of business coming in here and there. I think it's high time that the industry is taken seriously from the government and concrete measures are taken now to realize that there is a proper infrastructure given to this industry and ensure that there is certain recognition which comes in forms of people who travel to these. Once we have a disposable income coming in for the people, that's where the money is spent. See, it's all about liquidity. The money has to come into the system. Where's the money? Money is with the banks or with the government. Instead of putting the money back into the bank, the government has to infuse the funds into the common man, into the people who essentially can spend. Till the time there is no liquidity in the system, I don't think so anything is going to move. So I think what Mr. Patel or Mrs. Sitaraman or the Prime Minister and all that stuff, people who are there in the government, they must now take this pandemic as a very serious issue to realize our potential of what we can achieve in times to come. And forget about inbound coming in, forget about charter and all that. We don't need any of this business. That's going to come in, but only add to our ARR primarily. But if you've got to get the numbers right, current 14 million, which is nothing. Get it, increase it by another 10 million, we're good to go. All the hotels are good to go. That's, I think, the biggest takeaway, what I feel from this. And I completely agree with what Mr. Himmat Anand says. Listen, hotel is all about relaxation. It's all about, even if you're traveling on a business, it's all about that. You can't have certain rules, regulations of all that stuff. That's not going to happen. There is nothing, we're changing because we see COVID as obviously we don't know what it is changing, but that's something which is just for a period of 6 months. You can't change your overall hotel business because of this uncertainty which is cropped in. So in the overall longer picture and bigger picture, I think it's an opportunity for government to really, and the state government and the central government, to see what all they can do to really help hoteliers and bind together. This is what...
In fact, this is time for us to discover new tourism hubs. Like people are talking, say in Jammu and Kashmir, they're not talking about the Katra, triangle. They're talking about the Orchha triangle in Madhya Pradesh. It's time we discover new destinations.
Absolutely.
To get people in.
Absolutely. Can't hear.
About India.
We can't hear you.
So it's really hard to cater to. Your company, Leisure, has been working very hard to target exactly the middle class Indians, which Mehul was talking about just now. What do you think needs to be done to get more and more Indians to travel out more and more often, and maybe even to upgrade themselves, to a certain level, which is more international in terms of spending?
Sorry, Mr. Bhattacharya, is this question directed to me?
Yeah, it is.
Okay, we lost the first part of your question. Could you just repeat that for me?
I said that, Vibhas, your company, Leisure Hotels, has been working from the beginning with the middle class Indian traveler in mind. And you have been really working to develop this constituency. Now, do you think the time has come when we, like what Mehul was talking about, we sort of reinforce this drive towards getting the middle class Indian traveler to travel out more often and maybe to start spending more often, spending much more than he or she does now. Is there, and how did you achieve these ends?
So, so I can speak for ourselves. So we have about 25 properties in close proximity to major source markets in the north. So we are largely present in Western UP, Uttarakhand and Himachal. So if I look at the, whether it's the middle class or the upper middle class gentry, if they have discretionary expenditure, one of the primary motives of this expenditure today is actually travel. They're looking to seek experiences. They're looking to learn and cherish memories with friends and families alike. And I'm not even talking about the big fat Indian wedding and other social events that are part of our vocabulary today. So we don't need to actually do anything to convince them to travel. Travel is but a native need today amongst all of us. So if we look at the larger picture, if the economy is in good shape, if people have jobs, they have some money that they can save as part of their monthly paycheck, they would be looking for such experiences. Now, when it comes to travel, we need good infrastructure, road connectivity, rail connectivity, air connectivity. In some of the regions where we are active, we still don't have functional airports. In the Kumaon region of Uttarakhand, for instance, Pantnagar Airport has not been fully functional. It has Alliance Air flights a couple of times in the week, but we've just been told that they're upgrading the same. So if we improve the infrastructure, the private sector will take care of the rest. We are waiting for good opportunities of competitors actually entering our markets. So we were the first company which brought Taj into Uttarakhand about 5 years ago. We've been partnering with Mahindra Holidays for now close to 2 decades, way before Uttarakhand really became a place for people to come in. So my summary here is that leave the hospitality to the private sector, just provide infrastructure and keep the economy in good shape.
Fantastic. I think those are very good takeaways. Thomas, from the South, what are your perspectives? You have a gold mine for destination called Hampi. Being really developed, it doesn't even have proper connectivity. Do you think, we are sort of filtering away the advantages we have in terms of diversity of destinations?
Thank you, Mr. Bhattacharya. But I heard, I think I might have heard about 60% of your question. Were you speaking about Hampi and...
I was talking about Hampi as an example of how, the point which Mr. Prasad Vibhas just raised about connectivity and such issues, about how Hampi being a case of how we tend to, or the government tends to, sort of fritter away the advantages that the destination offers. Hampi has great heritage, great history, but it didn't have a proper, it still doesn't have proper connectivity. It still doesn't have, that number of hotels that it should be supporting. Why? How can we say change the face of Hampi and make it the kind of tourist destination we're talking about?
Yes. I mean, Hampi, to be fair, your question would have been, it would have been valid maybe in terms of connectivity, maybe about 3 years ago. But as of the last 1.5 years, we have a fully functional airport in Hampi. We have daily direct flights from Bangalore and Hyderabad. And, it's now the road infrastructure is also good. So in Karnataka, we are reasonably blessed in terms of infrastructure, in terms of, I won't say it's, European standards, but it is reasonably good in terms of infrastructure. We do have infrastructure. As far as as far as government is concerned, it's more in Karnataka, the ease of doing business. It takes like 7 to 8 years to get a property up and running. So that is one of the key challenges. But to be fair to the government, at least in Karnataka, over the past 2-3 years, we've had a good experience even through this entire lockdown. While the local administrations have been quite vehement about closing down individual districts, it's the tourism department that's come out and said that let's start back business again. There's nothing. A lockdown's not going to hamper anything, as opposed to Hampi. More importantly, it's like the question you had asked earlier about how do you get outbound travelers to travel domestic or things like that. It's just that a heritage place is not as attractive to an Indian consumer as a beach or a forest or a coffee plantation in Coorg. So even when we've opened now, though our property is lovely in Hampi and it's the best time to come there, we're not getting as much of a Bangalore crowd like we were. It's predominantly a little more of an inbound destination. We're not getting as much of a Bangalore crowd interest in Hampi as much as we are getting in our properties in Coorg and Kabini. So that is, I think the government has done what it can, and I think now the Indian consumers need to, I don't know if maturity is the right word to use, but they should understand our culture and our heritage and come and visit our palaces and to understand that better.
Right. So now, Ashutosh, it brings me to the point that I think a lot of people are looking at your generation. So I don't know now. That's only, I think it is yours is Generation Z. I think or shall we? Because you're not in the millennial generation. The millennial generation is a little older. How does your generation get excited about India and start traveling in India? It has always been very excited about going out. It's always been excited about going to Britain or France or wherever.
No, but I completely agree with you that my generation is looking at. I think your question is not over.
How do you get the excitement about traveling around India? Sorry, this bit we are working. Please go ahead. Yeah.
Definitely, I completely agree with you that up until last year, my generation, we were really excited to travel, and we had that in mind that traveling meant all about going abroad and not traveling within India. But the situation that has occurred right now has given us youngsters the opportunity to look at India and explore various properties. And I'm confident because people my age are constantly looking to go out with friends and family. They can't be homebound for a long time, so I'm sure that they are looking at various destinations, and it will be a positive thing for my generation, and they will now look at India as the next traveling destination.
So, and this is so much we have to showcase around us. The last stretch of our discussion. So, any parting thoughts that you would have? How would you get the Indian traveler? You have a pretty committed overseas or inbound market. But how do you get the Indian traveler get more excited about the kind of properties you have, each of which comes with a lot of history and it's a lot of excitement around it? Yeah, Binash, please unmute yourself.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah. I think so. One of the fallouts of the pandemic that I think is that India is going to get some really decent products for their own population. There is a need, as I mentioned this earlier, and Ashutosh mentioned that his generation always wanted, and including mine, all of us wanted to go abroad for a holiday to taste or to experience what a hassle-free experience of a leisure experience. I think that will begin to manifest now in India. I think we are our generation and the entrepreneurs in our generation are today in a position to create destinations and resorts that are equivalent or, at least try and rival properties in the Far East or in Dubai or other places. Our history and culture is such. It is, I think, our own, I would say, lack of being able to put it in a proper perspective. We have equivalent or better historical destinations than Europe or Turkey or Syria or etc. where people go, including Indians. But we've never leveraged it properly. I think this is the time for us to pause and start doing that, because this country has a lot to offer. The Agras and Jaipurs are already well covered, but there are a lot more destinations. And this intervening period of a year and a half, and we are involved as a company in that. We are working with some entrepreneurs today who are willing to spend some money and create world-class destinations, because our generation has traveled, has been there and seen some great places. And I think we have an idea as to what really makes a great place to visit. All of you have gone to Singapore and we've seen what they do to simple experience, but there are buses going there. For example, breakfast with orangutans or whatever is a great experience in Singapore. And in our own country, we have eons of history, architecture, color, food, cuisine, which we promote to outsiders, but don't do it to our own people. I think that's really going to change. And you will soon see, I feel, at least we will be part of that process where we will market and promote destinations, new experiences, and offer customers in India equal, if not equivalent, products and services as international. The minute you're able to do that in the domestic marketplace, you will begin to see, I think I heard somebody mention earlier, I think Mehul mentioned, there are just 10 million tourists coming to India. The day you create international quality destinations and hotels, that number will rise to 15 to 20, which is what the Indian government wants to do. So I think it really starts with the product. You get the product and service right, and you will see the Indian traveler going there, and very soon you will see the foreigner coming there as well. So this time is right. I mean, people have to use this time in a little more cautious fashion. But if you don't do it now, I think we'll miss the bus. I think India cannot miss the bus this time around. We have always been seen as a low-price destination with very few expensive hotels. I think the time has come for us to change that. And when we come out of COVID in a year and a half, we need to be a different country. And that's what I'd like to leave on this table for the moment.
That's I think, very good thoughts. Miguel Munoz. Hello, can you hear me, Miguel?
So, yes, I can, yes. So I'll just follow on that.
Thoughts.
Yes, so I'll just follow on that train of thought. Mahindra Holidays, in effect, has been very India-centric, for Indian families. That's a product that was created, and the destinations are created for the Indian families in mind. In fact, pioneered and founded a lot of the new destinations like Binsett or Kumbhalghat are destinations that were created by companies like Club Mahindra. And we ventured into that, betting on the fact that, Indian families still enjoy the Indian heritage, the Indian folklore, the Indian culinary experience. And now we're maybe going into a different era of bringing in wellness, bringing in those immersive experiences. And our focus is certainly around that. It's certainly about bringing out, working with the local communities, bringing about the best of the local heritage and the local culture, because there is, and you're quite right, so much richness and so much value to offer in the country. We need to have the support of the governments and state governments to improve infrastructure, absolutely so. But yet, I think if we're going to walk away from this pandemic situation with some good takeaways and some learnings for the hospitality industry. I do believe that there is a good balance between safety, hygiene, and experience. I think we need to strive for that, just like other countries. If we're going to compete, if Goa is going to compete with the likes of Bali, we need to up our game in those areas. If we're going to compete in, immersive and heritage destinations, we certainly need to improve in certain areas to attract not only the foreign clients, the Indian clients are very well versed as well. They've traveled abroad and they have those expectations. And I think those expectations are pushing the bar level to, to make us better providers and better operators. And we need to aim high to provide, a holistic, a better sort of experience and a safer experience for whether it's domestic or international. And what I see is India is just hitting the tip of the iceberg with international travel, right? You have the Himalayas, you have Kerala, you have Goa, we have phenomenal product here that is just pretty much untapped, which will bring immense wealth to the Indian economies, particularly to the local. So how do we harvest and how do we mine that? And I think it's up to the industry to put certain pressure on to the governments to certainly, at least provide the right infrastructure to allow us to deliver our product and our experiences. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Vikram, any parting thoughts?
I think, taking the point ahead from what Abhinash and Miguel has mentioned, I think it's not about the whole domestic tourism is, in my opinion, poised to boom. It's not about substituting it outbound travel. I think the critical aspect to know is that the holiday habit of an Indian has dramatically changed today when compared to what it was 10 or 20 years ago. He or she is willing to take more frequent holidays. They take at least 2 or 3 breaks in a year. Their spending propensity is far higher than what it was before. Their focus on having a great holiday experience is ever more important to them today than what it was 10, 20 years ago. It's just not about room and food. It's about also discoveries and experiences that play an important role. And I think that's where the Indian traveler is evolving. They are willing to explore unexplored destinations. We've opened, for example, a hotel in Pallavali in West Godavari district. It's very close to Vijayawada, very close to Hyderabad. It's doing exceedingly well. Very well spread out resort, over 11 acres, it's doing well. Anaikatti is just in Kerala, in the Silent Valley, about 45 minutes from Coimbatore. Those are the virgin destinations that actually doing far better than the traditional holiday destinations that we know of. So the Indian traveler has evolved. They will continue to evolve. And I think the potential that we have is tremendous. Yes, it's about how we are going to tap it. That would make all the difference. So brilliant opportunities ahead. While the last 3 to 4 months have been very, very tough on all of us, have been very tough on the industry, it has taught us a lot. Every company has a different takeaway to ensure that the situation is better managed if things of this kind happen again. But I'm very, very optimistic that the domestic tourism is poised to boom. And I think we have to start getting prepared for a much better future ahead than what we had seen in the past, and especially what we had seen in the last 3 months.
Great. So, Mehul Sharma, there's a bit of an unstated fear that a lot of the Indian business, which would have maybe been quite taken in or drawn in by the local market, maybe going to the Middle East because flights have opened up, and and there's a lot of sustained publicity being done by the Middle East destinations to promote travel there. How do you think, your segment of the business can reverse this trend to the Middle East?
I think what you said is right. However, that's very short-term knee-jerk reaction which is happening. I don't foresee that happening for a long term. Again, in Middle East or any other countries, it's happening because they get a lot of support from the local government. And for them, that's possibly one of the sectors which produces enough and more numbers in the past to give a substantial figure in terms of contribution to the economy. I think because a lot of countries depend on the travelers, on the foreign travelers, that's the reason they cannot sustain to not have any travelers coming in. And hence the government puts in a lot of effort. I mean, people in US, UK are doing a lot of efforts to encourage people to go out and eat, get a 50% discount. People are traveling in other countries. The idea is the government is playing a very important role to boost this and ease the liquidity crunch which has come into the people over there. The similar steps, any little steps which the government takes, from the banks or any liquidity measures which the government take, it will ease the borrowing power and the spending power of people. And I don't see any reason why people should not travel within the country itself. Whatever is happening is a short term because people are not too sure about what's going to happen outside. I mean, I would rather have people traveling, or we would rather have people traveling within India or traveling abroad now, because it's much more safer. And let's be very honest. We Indians are we're very skeptical when we travel, but we want to be very sure of whichever destination which we're traveling in. So I think any couple of concrete measures taken by the government, by the hospitality partners, making a world-class product, what Mr. Magnat and Miguel also pointed out, and it is just the tip of the iceberg. If we get that right, we will have a different discussion altogether. Maybe next time when we all meet. Absolutely pointed out by Mr. Lalwani. Unique destinations are the one which are evolved destinations, and people are evolved. People are traveled. They understand the nuances of new places. They want to explore. Why not do it in India and create an Indian product for the Indian itself, where we've got everything in place? I think that's something which will now take a serious shape now. And I foresee the current government taking enough and more measures to ensure that is done.
That's right. It said, Vibhas Prasad, do you have any thoughts, parting thoughts?
Sure. So, Mr. Bhattacharya, on a philosophical note, why do we travel? So we travel because we want to learn about the world around us. But more importantly, we want to learn more about ourselves as well. So it's rejuvenation, it's rediscovery. So, I have no notions in my mind that, travel is under any kind of concern when it comes to post-COVID scenario. As far as the domestic market is concerned, that's been the cornerstone of our business growth over the last 30 years. We took Uttarakhand to the world, Rishikesh, Haridwar, Corbett Park, Nainital, Naukuchia Tal with the Mahindra Group. So we've actually taken these markets to the world. And even now, almost 80% of our business is domestic travelers. We look at Western UP, we look at Punjab, we look at Delhi NCR, the not so famous regions like Faridabad, Ghaziabad. We get a whole host of tourists from these markets. So I strongly believe you look at connectivity, you look at infrastructure, some of the common points which have been spoken about already. And we look at 1 billion trips in this country, which no one talks about. Every single trip that counts for you to travel is actually 1 billion trips. And we still keep harboring about 10 million, 15 million. I understand those are important for the luxury segment. I also own a Taj hotel. It's important where my ADR is 16, 17,000 rupees a night. So maybe we need those foreign travelers. But if you look at the price conscious traveler who's coming, spending $100 to $150, we have hundreds of millions of people. So if we can all together push the economy to grow at 7, 8, 9, 10%, If Modi ji's dream comes true of reaching $5 trillion in the next 5 years, believe me, we'll have nothing to worry. We'll be talking about more and more supply of hotels. And just that will just feed into the ecosystem as a whole. So I think I'm very bullish personally, but I think we need to look for the vaccine plus tourism phenomena now. Now, when the vaccine comes out, whether vaccine tourism will take off, are you going to travel to Russia in October because they're going to be inoculating people in masses? So maybe you want to travel to Russia, get a vaccine and come back and travel the world. So I don't know when vaccine will kickstart, but it's vaccine plus tourism phenomena. That's what at least we are looking for. Back to you. Sorry.
That's right. That's but sooner than later. I will come to Mr. Anand right at the end. I'll give him the last words, really. Thomas and then Ashutosh. Thomas, any thoughts on on the discussions and on the way forward?
Right. For us, this domestic versus inbound, it's not the pandemic. That's what, like most of the panelists said, 80% of our business was domestic. So we've had domestic people coming, and we expect that to continue only for the medium term. Probably the balance is going to shift where we're going to have much more domestic than what we were having earlier. And about new products and everything, we've the argument between Dubai, like we are priced at 25 to 30,000 rupees a night. So the argument between a Dubai and a Singapore versus coming to us, because, coming to us for 3 nights and going to Singapore, including flights, staying there in a hotel and coming back, that was always been there for 5-6 years. So, but we believe in our product and we're now going to, be doing even more for the domestic. But then also I would like to say it's not outbound and inbound. Everybody who's gone outbound has also come into our property. So they're not two different people, that there's an X people who go outside and there's a Y people who travel within the country. It's just that the numbers are much more tilted towards outbound. So everybody who's visited our properties has definitely gone on a couple of foreign trips as well. So for us, it's just about sharpening our product and making sure. So the pandemic has not made us change our ways other than some of the safety measures. And we are sure that, domestic is going to pick up and domestic is going to give us our business in the near term. And we believe also inbound is going to come back. So I feel rather than, like some of the other panelists says, rather than change our strategy wholly, everything, we're just going to be prepared for a different kind of customer for the next 1 year. And then look forward to going back to what we were in 2019 at the end of all this.
Great. Thanks, Thomas. And Ashutosh, any thoughts?
I just feel that we need to redefine our marketing strategies. Mr. Anand had also posted on his LinkedIn that we need to be very aggressive with marketing, which I completely agree. I think staycations and vacations were the byproducts of creative marketing. So we need to really think about more marketing in such a manner that the domestic tourist also feels that, this is the place for me and I don't need to look at places overseas. So that's my take on it. Thank you.
Right. So that's, I think, and coming as it does from a representative of a generation, it's quite heartwarming. As I keep saying, the fact that one academic year of students will not be able to travel abroad, maybe giving us a great tourism opportunity. Because so 2020 is stuck in India now. All those who are planning to go abroad and study have no option but to stay in India and maybe to overcome around the cities. So, Mr. Anand, your thoughts?
So, sir, sorry to be the last one and to be the rotten apple in this whole game. Having spent 30 years in hospitality and tourism, I unfortunately even today don't have confidence in our tourism product, and I'll tell you why. I think for me, tourism is not about creating islands of excellence. So you can't create a few good resorts. You can't talk about a few good monuments. For me, tourism is about encompassing the whole experience. For me, tourism comes from cleanliness of cities. For me, tourism comes from the signages which we have. For me, tourism comes from social interaction, people to people. All that is what tourism and holidays are all about, not about hotels and monuments. And when I see India in that wider sort of canvas, and I'm not comparing us to Europe, forget Europe and America. I'm comparing us to countries close by, Sri Lanka, Philippines, Indonesia, Thailand. I think when you look at the whole tourism product, they are way, way, way ahead of us. So I, for once, never believe that India has any chance, and I say this with a lot of responsibility, India has any chance of becoming world-class in tourism. We are way, way behind world-class. So I think that dream should be sort of brought down a little bit. Let's just look at figures. We talk about 10 million inbound arrivals. The reality is, out of this 10 million, I don't think real tourists are more than 4 million. And I'm willing to bet anything on this. This 10 million includes a whole lot of other people, but the actual tourist in 10 million is really only 4 million. You've got 20 million who go outbound. And the government figure says there are about 700 to 800 million domestic travelers. Now that is your saving grace, because the numbers are so huge of domestic travel in this country. It works very well. And everybody's now going gaga about domestic, but domestic has been there forever. It is not a new phenomenon in this country at all. We've had domestic, these travelers, it was 300 million, came to 500. Now the government says there's 800 million people. I think what the country has also lost, unfortunately, in this whole last 3 months is that those 20 million people who would have traveled overseas now in winters, I don't think the outbound segment has made effort enough, and I use the word effort enough, to convert them into domestic travelers. Had they been more proactive in this and got those people even for 3, 4, 5 months to travel domestic, I think the surge which you're seeing now in the actual domestic travel, had you added these few million people to that kitty, I think the revival would have been better. My take is that the outbound market is waiting for things to sort of normalize by December, January. Flights come back, visa issuance has already started. So I do believe the country has lost out on this opportunity in the domestic segment for these 3, 4 months, where I feel that the outbound segment, the outbound operators should have been more aggressive in converting their database, their clients into temporary domestic travelers. Because the guy who goes outbound, he will continue to go outbound. I think there are two very different products, what India offers and what the outbound space offers. We have a long way to catch up there. So I, for once, don't believe that long-term we can convert the outbound traveler into a domestic traveler. No, that won't happen. And the moment the things normalize a little bit in the next 6 months, you're going to see the outbound travel figures go up again slowly. So yeah, that's my take on how we are today.
Yeah, I think that's a much needed dose of realism. But I think in the long term, the bottom line remains that we have got to be more aggressive about getting the domestic traveler traveling more around the country, and also the outbound travelers looking inside and discovering destinations. I think for that we have to create destinations and create excitement around it. Mr. Lalwani and Miguel both mentioned destinations which have created excitement because of being different. They have a different experience to offer. So when Mr. Mamgani talks about experiential destinations, I think there is a great need for experiential destinations. And that is what I think we all, we sort of have come to this conclusion, not that it's something that is just being talked about now, it's been talked about for quite some time, that there is need to throw in experiences which will make destinations special. I come back to my favorite peeve, Hampi. I see Hampi not as just a historical destination. I think it is a great destination which had a lot of experiences to create around it, but was not able to do so. Hopefully, I think the situation will change, and we'll have great destinations to offer, great new destinations to offer, and a lot more excitement about India as a product. I hope the COVID pandemic leads us to that direction. Staycations and vacations are great short-term, measures, great short-term buzzwords. we need them, which will determine how our industry progresses. With this, once, thank you so much for being here and giving us an opportunity to interact with you. We hope we'll continue this webinars once a week till December. And on December 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, we're going to have a 3-day conference where a lot of these issues and topics will be revisited with people not only from India but also from overseas. So we hope to make this a really big deliberative forum and maybe come up with solutions. We want every webinar to be full of solutions, full of suggestions which the industry can take forward and implement. Thank you for your time, gentlemen. Hope to see you soon. God bless and have a great weekend ahead. Still sometime far away, but we can hope it will be as good as the last weekend. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.